All right, awesome. So next portion is we're gonna let my mom ask some questions. She's been listening to this whole debate, and she has some questions. So go ahead.
So how about the the hormone imbalance, or how about the life stress events, or like sickness, in both for women and men that affect their life, and you
Nice to
can
meet you.
you cannot predict how they're gonna react or what actually drive them to make one decision versus another decisions. How did you take that into equation in your formulas?
So I think that's a question more for Michael and Homath. But what my mom's getting at essentially environmental factors that cannot be predicted. Like, for example, nowadays women are taking much more steroids due to,
Hmm.
due to birth control and stuff like that. Or on the men's side, there's just much more chronic illness and stuff like
Mm.
that going on. I mean, men being chronically low T and just people getting sick. Like, how does all that factor in to the studies that you've cited throughout this debate?
There's a couple of things. As we get further and further away from a survival scenario, testosterone levels are just going to drop, because you would imagine there was probably times in our history where the most robust, physically strong men probably were able to have slightly more children than people who were less robust and had lower testosterone. Well, there's no selection pressure for that at all anymore. Like it doesn't make any difference how strong you can have children. And so because that selection pressure isn't quite the same, you should expect testosterone levels to drop. I think that's part of the reason why. But I think it's normal.
I would also wait. I think just on that real quick, the idea that like testosterone is this hugely important thing in survival societies, there's probably almost no truth to that whatsoever. As long as you're in like the reference range of men, no, absolutely not. If you go and you look, because you said it earlier, men never hunted on strength. Our species hunts on endurance. We walk things and run things down until they die. And if you actually look at videos of like tribesmen in fucking Africa that still live, none of these guys look like The Rock. None of these guys are like shredded with these massive pecs. I don't even know if any of these guys could bench, probably not even 225, maybe not even 185 in most cases. Like these guys look like lean fucking long distance runners, and they can throw like spears or weapons or whatever. So the idea that like, because I think sometimes there's
part of that?
What?
Is testosterone not a part of that?
Yeah,
testosterone can influence it a bit, but I'm just saying that like you don't need like a 950 T level to be like a distance runner, right? It's not like I don't think the selection is that big there.
So there's a couple of things. So in the last like 50 or 60 years, men have gotten into weight training, which and testosterone aids in protein synthesis. And so because excessive, like higher levels of protein, better protein, and then all the weight training, that's why guys look like The Rock. But those guys who were skinny and lean, those hunters, they still might have, well, I'm guessing that they did have really high testosterone. It's just their testosterone led to assertiveness, awareness, alertness, and it also probably led to protein synthesis, but they didn't have the ability, like in none of those tribal societies do they have the ability to procure protein like we do. So I think that's probably the reason why they don't look the same.
Real quick, my mom feels like I mischaracterized her question, so I'll let her ask it again. Just try to make it more simplified. Go ahead.
So I'm not asking about guys taking hormones or women taking hormones. I'm talking about the health issues and that happen to a lot of men and women. Then their hormones imbalance, and that affect their attitude, their relationship, and their health. And in terms of like in general, that they cannot be programmatically put into your equation.
So health is essentially affecting someone's hormones levels and affecting how they function.
Yeah, I think the way that the modern world affects us and affects our health is it's like a very fundamental part of what I talk about, that things are different now than they have been historically. And that's affecting things like our bodies and our hormones, and that affects our perceptions. It affects the ways that we pair with each other and the way we interact with each other. One of the things I'm kind of trying to do is remind people that we're a little off kilter. So the way that your brain is sort of wired to perceive the world is you're looking for people that are not there anymore, because men are having such low testosterone. We're at such low activity and we're staying inside all the time. You're having people develop and grow up who are not fulfilling the expectations that we have built into our like lower brains. That's, I think, one of the major issues that's leading to these imbalances that we're seeing. Like we're seeing a lot of like more men unable to get attention, and women clustering around the ones who still can fulfill the expectations that are built into the instinctual brain.
Corey, I'm curious, as a biologist, is this something you look at all about the difference of hormonal rates with men and women, birth control, stuff like that?
Not birth control specifically, at least myself, but like, as a biochemist, I'm obviously concerned with hormones. So
but I'm aware of sort of the trend, and the research may be showing whatever decreases in testosterone levels in men. I haven't delved deeply into the research, but I'd be curious to know, like, if you happen to know, like, is that controlled for in terms of like, low testosterone is also correlated with like overweight and obesity. And so
Yeah, I don't
like,
know. That's a good point. Yeah, so the
Uh,
aromatase, that's such a great point. The aromatase, so as people get fatter, for those of you who don't know, if you take exogenous testosterone, or if your body produces testosterone from your testicles, the more body fat you have, it aromatizes that testosterone into estrogen. And so now what's happened is the fat is like sucking out some of the testosterone that you could have been using for protein synthesis in order to build bigger muscles. And so you're right. And it's a cycle. Then you end up with that. If you guys have ever been to a bar, you see that guy at the end of the bar with the big old man boobs drinking a beer, like that is the end. Like that's what happens at the end. Your body fat is taking on all the testosterone. And so maybe that could be the obesity, maybe another reason. It's a great point.
yeah,
Another
that's,
reason why
I don't
testosterone
actually
levels have
like.
dropped.
I'm just sort of hypothesizing and speculating. Where, like, again, I'd be curious if those studies actually controlled for that, or if that's been looked into, because I can see that as
Yeah,
sort of an
that's
alternate
great.
explanation.
Hey.
But yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just curious, just from Destiny and Corey. So there's some studies. Gad Sad talked about this the other day on one of his interviews. He's a professor from he went to Cornell, and he's a professor at Concordia University in Canada. And he was talking about the idea, like, during the woman's maximal fertile period, they do more to make themselves look better. And there have been studies, and these studies have been replicated. Do you guys think that would be? Do you guys believe in that? Do you think that's hokum? Like, what and why do you think that it would be, Corey?
Well, I can. So based off how you described it, I could believe it at face value. I'd be curious to know in terms of like what metric they're using to measure like whatever increase in looks, or make themselves like whatever look prettier.
Yeah, that's good. That's pretty subjective. Yeah.
Yeah. But I can take it as face. I can believe it, and if it's replicated, like, yeah, I have no reason to dispute it. But I just be curious. The devil's in the details. Just as that testosterone, I think the devil's in the details.
From a psychological standpoint, though, why do you think women would do that, though, when they're more maximally fertile?
Oh, well, I assume whatever, to attract a mate or attract a partner, or to
But no one
conceive.
taught them to do that. That's what I'm saying. Is like it'd probably be like some genetic artifact.
I think that may be a little bit of a leap to say that no one taught them to do. Like, I don't know how the study was conducted, but
during their like maximally fertile, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, girls aren't like, "Hey, I'm maximally fertile today. Let me put on some red lipstick." That's what I'm saying. It's like I think women are definitely taught to maximize their looks in general, but like the fact that they do it more when they're maximally fertile.
Yeah, I can believe that. But again, I'd be curious to know how that's quantified specifically.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I agree with just the overall broader point of, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm aware that probably 90% of my behavior is like unconscious or subconscious, and I'm whatever on autopilot to some respect.